Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Indies Introduced series where we spotlight debut authors handpicked by booksellers from around the country. In each episode, a bookseller from the Indies Introduced panel will interview the author of a debut title featured in our program.
Hi, I'm Amani Jackson from the Ivy Bookshop in Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm here with PC Verrone, who is the author of Rabbit Fox Tar. PC's work has appeared in Faya, Podcastle, Nightmare, and numerous anthologies. He's been a Tin House resident, a Playwrights Center Fellow, and a WNDB Black Creatives Revisions Workshop winner. He graduated from Harvard College and holds an MFA in creative writing from Rutgers University, Newark. He lives in Dallas with his husband, who's a historian. Hi, PC. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. I'm very excited to be talking with you today.
Me too. Happy Pride. Yes, happy
Happy
Pride.
Pride, yes.
Woohoo. All right. So we're here to talk about this crazy, incredible book that when I tell you that the whole panel, we could not stop talking about it from the very beginning. It was on our, yeah, this is going to make the list. As we kept doing cuts, nobody mentioned Rabbit Fox Tar as a cut because it just wasn't an option. So I just wanted to let you know like how excited I am to do this. I kind of maybe like told everybody that I had to be the one to do that. I pulled my chair card. I was the chair of the committee and I was like, I want to do PC's interview because I'm so obsessed with this book. So I want to
Well, thank
start,
you.
yeah, with I love retellings. I think it's really I mean, I used to be one of those people who watched every version of The Wizard of Oz except for the original Wizard of Oz and like the same thing with Cinderella. So what made you decide that it was Tar Baby that you wanted to retell? Did it start as Tar Baby or was there a message you matched to a folktale?
I am also someone who has always loved fairy tales and folk tales and different reimaginings of that too. Um, and the Tarby folk tale, the idea to adapt it came actually because I was reading Toni Morrison's novel Tar Baby. And as I was reading that novel, I just kept thinking that her approach to this story was so different than what my interpretation would be. And that
Mhm.
sort of got my mind thinking, like, okay, what would my sort of contemporary novel take on this folktale? What would that look like? And eventually it turned into this book. Um, but the Tarby folktale in particular is interesting because it's probably the most famous Brer Rabbit story,
Mhm.
but the most common version of that we now know comes to us through Joel Chandler Harris, who was a white folklorist who took the stories and folk tales of Black Southerners and published them. They became incredibly popular, were the subject of minstrel shows and all kinds of racist anti-Black depictions from the 1800s through the 20th century. And so that story, and particularly the image of the tar baby, also has a lot of baggage on it. And so
Mhm.
that became a really interesting challenge working with this story that has African and African American roots, but has been sort of twisted with the white gaze. And so it became this really fruitful question of how do you wrestle with that and how do you add something new to a story that has that kind of history.
Yeah, and it did feel new. It didn't feel like specific to any kind of time. It felt like I could read it at any point in time and still feel like it felt relevant or, natural. But that's what folktales are, right? They travel with us through time. They may shift, they may have a different storyteller, but at the basis, they are this one story somebody told to get some message across. And I love stories like that stories that just never die. They're going to keep taking on new lives.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely.
so you're also an Afro-Indigenous person. What tribe do you belong to?
The Osage and Kiowa are my
Okay.
people.
Yes. Do you have any Indigenous folk tales that you think would be fun to adapt?
That's a really good question. I mean, the interesting thing is there are Indigenous American versions of the Tarbaby folk tale.
Mm,
Um, there's a Cherokee one and a Nahuatl one, and something as I was kind of looking into the history of the folk tale through writing this book, that I started thinking about was the ways that it itself is sort of an Afro-Indigenous story because of the ways that African people who brought the sort of West African version of the story and these indigenous stories sort of melded together, um, is just something interesting to think about. I think well there's a Kiowa story that is about how the Seven Sisters constellation ended up in the sky. And it's about these seven sisters who are playing with their brother, and then their brother transforms into a bear, and he sort of chases them up into the sky. And I wrote a short story that sort of reimagined this as like a werewolf story.
mm.
And that's going to be in the sequel to Never Whistle at Night, which will be coming out sometime later this year.
I'm prepared. I'm waiting. I'm already tuned in for sure. Yeah, that's interesting how you say like because there's so many folk tales or stories that in my head I'm like, yeah, these are African American stories. Like we've been telling these forever. And some version of that story, there is a, Latinx person who's like, yeah, these are our stories. We've been telling these stories forever. And it's just really incredible. I think folk tales and storytelling and myth telling, it's kind of like the most what's the word I'm looking for? Like basic human part of us, I guess.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
incredible to keep going with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be retold and reimagined. I think that sort of helps, the that tradition of oral history, um, I think is really deep seated in definitely African American communities, but communities across the globe. And so I think it feels kind of within a legacy to continue to be adapting and reinterpreting these same
Hmm.
stories.
And you also kind of give an element of that with Auntie Riri having to retell her story over and over and over again, about, the neighborhood and what's happened. And it all depends on who hears it at what time, at the right time, if something actually happens. Um, and it's just true of every story we tell, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that, I think there's a real power in telling stories, and something that I sort of realized through the process of writing this book was how uh, the way you tell a story can really sort of change everything,
Hmm.
change the kind of world around you. It's sort of that, butterfly flaps its wings kind of thing, that just the really subtle ways that you decide to tell a story can have these huge effects down the line.
Yeah, well, even how Tar Baby can be a story about, work hard and, don't try to, whatever that simple kind of story can be. Or it can be a really racist kind of minstrel blackface story. It just depends. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you're a storyteller in a lot of ways. So you're now a novelist. Congratulations. A playwright, a poet. I guess what form of writing are you most comfortable in? Let's start there.
I don't know. I mean, I feel at home in all of, well, poetry is a little newer to me, but certainly fiction and playwriting, I feel at home in both, and I sort of like being able to kind of hop from one to the other. They sort of,
Hmm.
I feel like there's kind of exercising different kinds of writing muscles.
And I think the dialect in your novel, you can tell that you write people talking. I think that's always something I'm super particular about. And if I can hear dialogue and I'm like, yes, this person knows how to write a conversation. That's really important. So how do you feel the editing process differs from plays to novels to, lit mag poetry, anything like that?
I feel like for plays, I'm able to get into the flow of it a lot more easily, where once you know the characters, you can sort of just put them in a room and then let them
Mm-hmm.
go and see what sparks fly. Uh, and so the editing is a lot harder for that, because then you have to start to really pick apart this juicy dialogue scene that feels like, oh, everything's there, but then you realize, like, well, okay, there's some logical shifts or jumps that
Mm-hmm.
aren't quite making it. Whereas in fiction, I feel like it's much more meticulous in the first draft. Um, and it's a lot more about kind of building out this world for a reader, and a lot more about the language itself. Because in a play, the audience is not going to see the stage directions that I write.
Right.
That's just for the director and the designer and the actors to sort of interpret. But in fiction, that the language is the medium, and so I find myself paying much more attention to things like repetition and wordplay, and that sort of direct interaction I'm able to have with the reader. And in this novel in particular, I remember one thing that I was thinking about was I wanted to use the word tar very intentionally and very
Mm-hmm.
sparingly, because my hope was that anytime someone saw the word tar, it would sort of ping in their
That's
mind.
exactly what happened. Yes.
Oh, good. Well, then it worked.
Yeah, that definitely worked. Um, okay, so I was kind of, creeping on your Instagram a little bit, just seeing what else you've talked about. And I saw in one conversation you said that there's only one sh straight character possibly in the book. Everyone else is pretty queer coded. Besides Nia, who is the most queer coded character?
That's a good question, and a hard question.
I have a thought, but I want to hear what you say first.
Well, I think there is a spectrum where you have a character like Nia who identifies as a lesbian. And then you have Lucky, who is a bisexual man, but has such a tight, restrictive grip on his self-image that
Hmm.
he doesn't believe that his attraction to men really fits within that. Um, and then you have Baby, who is such a fluid person, that
Queen baby.
queen that well, and she doesn't really understand why anyone would sort of limit their desire, and her approach to life is this exploration and curiosity towards desire. And so just the idea that there would be any sort of limit around your attraction to another person is so foreign to her. Um, and that was a really fun. I love writing the conversation that they have in the book, sort of around
Hmm.
Lucky's sense of himself and his sexuality, um, and that their reactions to each other are so unimaginable to the other person.
Yeah,
Uh, so and then I think Gina's got something going on too.
that
She
was my answer. My answer was Gina. It was when she like kisses the wall or something, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a queer lady right there.
she never quite gets to like live this out, but I would 100% think, and was sort of writing around, like, she's using the language of motherhood a lot of the time, but there's There's other
Hmm.
stuff going on,
That's
girl.
not all it is. It's not a motherly vibe that whole time.
Yeah. And I will say, I think I said one, but I think Auntie Riri is also probably straight.
Yeah, I'll give her that. I
Yeah.
feel like in my head, Auntie Riri has so much happening. Like, does she really think that hard about all of that right now at this point? But I guess,
True, true. I mean, I think there's also an argument that she could be like asexual.
yeah, I would give her
So
that.
she
But
she she's in the community.
when you're talking about baby and like the not really getting why you would limit yourself, I think that's part of why I loved this book so much is because I was like, that's how I've always tried to explain my own sexuality to people. It's like, what's the difference? Like, we're humans. And I think just the she's not human, but she's trying to understand these humans. I think everybody kind of feels that way about something, especially when you're dropped into a new experience or a new place where people have a different culture or way of being or thinking. I like to say I'm a happy alien. You're just like a little foreign person, but you're figuring it out and you're loving it. And I think that that's also cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Baby was really a way to explore my own view of the world because I have that same feeling most of the time where I really feel like I don't get all these rules. I don't get,
Yeah.
what why why is living in a society so hard? Everyone's just it seems to be making it hard for themselves. Um like so her her perspective was so fun but also so intuitive
Mm.
because it it just allowed me to really talk about all of this is fake. All of these rules that we put up,
Mm-hmm.
all of these borders that we create are, if you can just walk over the line, you can just walk through it.
Yeah. Yeah, none of it's real. None of it's real, especially if you're trying to explain the rules to somebody, then that's when you start realizing the rules don't make any sense.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. So I like to pair my fiction with nonfiction, kind of like a wine and cheese kind of thing, right? So I read Rabbit Fox Tar next to Darkology by Raylan Barnes, and it's kind of a history of menstruality in America. And I thought that, the Tar Baby story being retold in its own way and menstruality, it all kind of goes together. Is there a nonfiction book that you would pair with Rabbit Fox Tar?
It's so funny you ask that because I'm really not a big nonfiction reader, but this book in particular was very much inspired by a lot of Black feminist and post-humanist writing, specifically the essays on coloniality by Sylvia Wynter and Mama's Baby, Papa's Maybe by Hortense Spillers, which is where one of the epigraphs comes from. And I read both of these essays in college in a class taught by the absolutely brilliant Dr. Durba Mitra. And together, these essays sort of completely changed my brain chemistry and the way
Mm,
that I looked at the world. And I wanted to attempt to integrate these very theory heavy, like capital A academic ideas into a work of fiction. And I hope I did a good job. it's,
yeah,
is
that's
all
why we're
I'll
here.
say.
It's because you did a great job.
But I will say if you read the book and you like it and you're in the mood to read some like academic theory alongside it, I think both of those essays uh, pair well. And one fun little Easter egg is when I was trying to figure out how to end the book, I ended up going back to the very end of the Hortense Spillers essay, and that that told me exactly how I was going to end the book.
Yeah. See, so you did pair. Reality informs fiction, I feel. There's no way for us to not write within the context of very real things happening or being theorized around us, for sure, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this isn't even one of the questions I had written down, but I just need to know what was going through your mind when you put everybody in that house at the end. Because I kept starting that part over and I was like, oh my God, the whole neighborhood is really in this house.
I That's a good question. I'm trying to remember. I just had so much fun with that. And
Yeah,
it was something where I was just thinking, all right, let's try this. I think, I love, on top of folk tales, or sort of, intermeshed with folk tales, I loved haunted house stories.
me
So there was a little
too.
bit, yes, yes. So there's a little bit of that going on. Um, but I was really trying to, I was really trying to break down this idea of a town that is so both self-important and like insular, that it just keeps getting smaller and smaller and
Hmm.
smaller, and they keep refusing to engage with any ideas that are going to make them question their sense of themselves. And so they keep compressing, compressing, compressing until they're literally inside, everyone is inside the same house, and just ignoring the fact that they're all living on top of each other. Um,
Campaigning and on the steps.
yes, yes. And it was just a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
it was yeah, that whole part, I was just sort of having the time of my life trying to figure out the logistics of what it means when an entire neighborhood has decided to all live inside a big house, but one
Not
single
a
house.
neighborhood-sized house, but
Right,
still a big
right.
house. Yeah. It gave me the same like stress as have you seen Mother by
Yes. You know what? I bet there was some of that in the back of my mind. I bet there was some of that going on too.
it was that same panic feeling that I felt when I was reading that. So yeah, maybe that's a pair. We'll do the movie pair with the nonfiction pair with the fiction pair, and then everybody will comprehend all together.
Yes, you'll get little snatches of my mind.
Yes. Well, I am having so much fun talking to you. I feel like we're friends now. We can exchange haunted house books, maybe.
Yes, please.
Yeah, but I'm so glad that we get to do this and we get to do this during Pride, that your book is like so, 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 so good and that it's out in the world and I'm pushing it on my customers already. I had a shelf talker on it before it made it to the floor. I was talking to my floor coordinator, like, did you put this in the center? Is this on the table? Like, make sure that people can see that they're gonna get this book.
Oh,
So, and know that everybody on the committee is like that in their store right now. So, just want to say congratulations and booksellers everywhere. You're gonna hear PC's name. Stay tuned. It's not over.
no, absolutely not. I will, whether anyone wants it or not, I will continue writing.
Oh, I'll take it directly to my inbox. You can send it here.
Of course. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming today and good luck on your tour. Um, if you ever want to hang out in Baltimore, let me know. We'll get that arranged, okay?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!